Good evening, folks. My name is Marcos Peleche. I am on the board for the Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative, as well as the Dudley Neighbors Incorporated, which is the land trust part of our local neighborhood. I'm a neighbor. I've been here for since 2001, and I'm happy to be sharing this space with you guys. So I go by he, him. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Cor Lou for short, and I am a resident of Roxbury and a community of DSNI. I'm part of their community. And I am excited to be here to, one, share this, and I feel like it's a movie that a lot of people need to see, or at least a conversation that needs to be held or have.
Hey everyone, I'm Tu. I use my name and he, him pronouns. I'm a community organizer at Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative. I'm from Dorchester, and my work is around youth and climate resilience.
All right, we can snap it up. We'll snap it up for those organizers, those speakers who are here tonight. And at this time, I will be switching over to a different screen for our in-person audience. I feel like a mad scientist.
Like your background.
Oh, yeah.
The community was just really devastated.
All right, everybody, enjoy the film.
When we moved here as a family, the whole community was just really devastated.
The neighborhood was dealing with arson for profit, white flight from the city, increase in crime, and illegal dumping.
This vacant parcel here was just littered. In back of the house, that was a car graveyard. They used to steal cars and just dump them there. At 9 or 10 years old, all these lots were vacant. I was in the window, I'd come home, and if I was doing my homework, I might stop and take a break and see a truck pull up to go dump a refrigerator, and I'd run out and I'd write down the license plate number, give it to him to make sure people were excited for doing that. A lot of us who moved here became the pioneers of the community, if you will, and stuck it out, saying, this is what we want, and this is what we'll work for.
25 years ago, we created the Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative to organize in this neighborhood. Residents had called for a neighborhood that would have safe streets, the neighborhood that would be green and clean, the neighborhood that would have affordable housing.
We've done a tremendous job in stabilizing the community, but we still have a lot of work to do. Nothing comes easy, and that's something that we've learned in this neighborhood a long time ago. That if you want it, you're gonna have to work for it. By raising our voices, it is the most powerful thing you can imagine.
My passion is activism. I focus primarily on helping youth get jobs.
I really want to assist in finding ways and means to stop the killing and the violence in the Roxbury community.
Those of us that live in here, those of us that work in here, need to be involved.
These 42 candidates showed a depth of leadership and activism in the community that will lead DSNI for the next 2 years.
DSNI, the Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative, is a neighborhood planning and community organizing agency that allows for the residents of this neighborhood to demand the best and build the partnerships to make that work for them.
We want to help get the residents what they need, but not by doing it for them, by helping organize residents to do it for themselves.
Just because we've improved how the neighborhood looks, if we sit on the fact that we've had some successes, then we're fools. The economic downturn puts all types of stress on neighborhoods like ours. And there's a real threat that the foreclosure crisis can take us back a few decades. And so we're looking at it and saying to people, come out and be a part of this movement to improve your neighborhood. We believe that everybody in the neighborhood is an organizer. That in fact, everyone in the neighborhood is an agent for change.
When you look at the neighborhood, it's like 30% African American, 25% Latino, 30% Cape Verdean. But the number that's the most astonishing is about 40% of the neighborhood are 19 and under. So if they're not succeeding, if they're feeling hopeless, then the whole community isn't gonna do well. If you're not around people that are used to dreaming, that are used to setting goals, like it's gonna be difficult for you to do the same thing. For me, focusing on young people is like the greatest way to make change in our neighborhood.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. You guys ready?
Nah, I ain't in the booth yet. I'm about to speak to
Alright guys, y'all quiet.
Give me mine loud.
Ready?
Nah.
5,
Okay.
3, 2,
What?
7.
Yeah.
Wait, which one is the computer?
It's 1 and 2. Hello, good afternoon, everybody. This is DYC, W Council Radio Show, and today's radio show is about the cutbacks on teenage jobs.
Youth united will never be defeated. Youth united will never be defeated.
DSNI is part of a lot of groups from across the state trying to get the elected officials to make a commitment to keeping the level of funding that has been there for youth jobs.
And right now, about 30% of teens are unemployed. And I'm just wondering, what do you guys think about that?
This is worse than the Depression, the amount of teen unemployment. It impacts urban students more than suburban students. It impacts like minorities more than white. It impacts low income more than wealthy. So it impacts the people who can actually hear our radio show. It impacts us that's actually on the radio show.
Whose state house? Our state house. Whose budget? Our budget. Whose state house? Our state house. Whose budget?
Every kid wants a job. A lot of them are helping to support their families. For at least 5 of our 35 youth, a parent has been laid off, and so they're working in order to help their parent. Or if they haven't been laid off, they've been cut to part-time.
So we just have one question, and our question is that, will you make a commitment to $6 million to restore youth funding jobs, one of your top priorities this year?
Okay.
Please, thank you.
Okay. Okay.
It's better for us to ask for our jobs, because we need it. So instead of everybody else coming like, oh, give the teens their jobs, it's better for us to come and ask for what we need.
When I was younger, I never really thought of organizing as a profession. I was a resident, and this was my neighborhood, and it was about improving my neighborhood.
My name's John Barrows. I hope to represent the age bracket we reach, which is seriously lacking here.
I was fortunate to be in a movement called the Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative that believed in me, that allowed me to be a knucklehead sometimes, play around, but still thought I was worth it to spend time with.
He's on his way to college. He's got accepted to Dartmouth.
Somebody grabbed me out of there, brought me into a positive situation, brought me into a nurturing situation. And here I am today.
My name is Jason Webb. I'm 14 years old. I have devoted half of my life to the community.
The youth basically muscled themselves into the room and said, we're a part of this conversation too. And now you have the youth that grew up in the organization now running it.
This meeting was different.
John Barros is the executive director, myself as the chair of the board, Jason Webb is the VP of operations. We grew up in DSNI as youth, so we know exactly what it's like to be the young guys at the table or not have a voice.
If we don't tap into our youth and nurture their leadership, DSNI doesn't have a future, our neighborhood doesn't have a future. Way too often, young people in our neighborhood are faced with obstacles at young ages that most adults aren't even faced with.
The family picture is that I'm the guardian of the three, pretty much taking care of my siblings. My mom was feeling stressed out and just was having problems with motivation, like was feeling depressed. I thought that having my siblings would help her to feel less stress, would help her to recover faster.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
So it's like, you know what? I got this, okay? You just work on getting better. I'm getting an MSW in social work. My mom let us know education is the only way you're gonna be able to have anything in your life. And for me, I was like, that's all I gotta do, and I'm good. And they're like, yes, do school, and you're set. I sent this to Jason. He's gonna basically...
What's exciting is when a young person wants to grow in the neighborhood, develop themselves, and also think about what comes behind them.
Youth united will never be defeated.
I'm not a very patient person, but I'm learning to be patient, and I'm learning that, you know, things take time. And so being patient has helped me to feel more empowered that I'm able to make change. I just really believe now that I can change things on a larger scale.
Last month, we've lost 3 young men from gun violence in the neighborhood, all within a 5-block area.
I know a lot of people that were victims of crime. The new thing, it goes from how I remember we used to talk about Pokemon cards to like, oh, did you know who got shot the other day? Or do you know who got killed the other day?
Crime and safety is something that's always been there for us. Some of the old campaigns in the early 90s were around taking over the park down the street, which meant filling it with activities and people.
When I was growing up, I got in the typical kind of trouble youth in the neighborhood got into. I got into my fair share of fights in the neighborhood when we needed to settle something amongst each other. I was stopped a fair amount of times by the police. I understand good people making bad choices.
We really want a safe neighborhood, but the paths to it are not by just the crime watch or relations with the police or everybody carrying mace in their pocket. You create safety through having youth opportunities and youth development.
We've continually reached out to all the youth in the community. Some are a little harder to reach than others. The thing that we have not had is the resources to offer them something that's more positive. With the Kroc Center, we will have that.
When you go back to the late 80s and the neighborhood plan, we had all been thinking about a community center. It's been a part of those plans. It's deeply rooted in neighborhood memory.
That visioning process for a community center started with the Young Architects project. Some 20 years ago, young folks sitting there with architects and designing community centers.
My father sits on the DSNI board, and he came home one day and told me.
Carlos Enriquez, who's now the board president, he was one of the young architects that was sitting there in that room.
It was our first project, and we talked about what we'd like to see in our community.
One day, 2 consultants walked into DSNI, sat down with us, and was able to speak enough of the community's vision, speak enough of the community's history, speak enough of the values to really grab our attention. And then they said, and we're here to talk to you about the possibility of receiving a gift. Okay, you got our attention. What's this gift look like? What are we talking about here?
From all indications, we will get $80 million.
The Salvation Army came to me and they said they got an $80 million gift from the Clark family, and they wanted to put it someplace in the city. I saw that location as a perfect place to help build up the economic opportunities in that neighborhood.
It was not a foregone conclusion that the project was going to happen. Early on, there were questions of whether the Salvation Army as a church was here to convert folks, or whether they were going to believe in the leadership of this community, in the vision of members of this community, and follow as a partner.
There was a possibility of $80 million coming to this community to build a world-class community center. And this community didn't just say, hey, yeah, come on in. They said, we should think about whether this is right or wrong for our community.
As a state representative, my concern was around the Salvation Army. They're a very hierarchical organization. Where do we get decision-making opportunity when it's an organization that is so controlled and hierarchical coming in?
It was an experience of being tested and being welcomed. It's welcome to the community, and this is how we do things. Can you embrace these values? Are you on the same page with us?
By the time we hit the groundbreaking, we were well over 150 meetings in the community about their vision for the Kroc Center.
What shifted for me was that I was assured that community would be very much central. And in fact, DSNI was going to be sort of that main vehicle in order to make certain that the voice of community was at the table.
This is a huge opportunity. As a neighborhood, folks were really clear. How do we capture those jobs for the community? How do we make sure that the benefit goes beyond the facility itself?
I belong to one of the finest locals in the city, Local 151. We talk the talk, we walk the walk, we do the work. How come a man with all these skills I got, I ain't working? Guys like me and him, we can't find no work. Why is that? And you're in my backyard. That's what I got to say.
I've been doing iron work for 23 years. People of color is not going to be working. In other words, you have more whites on the job itself, and it's been like that.
I understand your frustration, because I know you've been doing it for a long time, but that frustration can turn into something constructive. When you share that with us in meetings like this, when you share that...
Workforce development, that's one of the issues that have really beset this community, because in the past, it's always been the city turns a blind eye to, what a lot of the developers and the contractors are doing. They blame it on the unions. Everybody's pointing the finger at each other, and nobody's sitting down at the table and saying, well, wait a minute, let's sort of work through this and see, where we can find a solution.
We will take action on that. We will have the next. If you think those two guys were frustrated when we started this process, you had a room full of 30 people like that. They've all seen a building come in and see it get built by people that don't live here, that don't look like people from this neighborhood, and missed out on the millions of dollars and missed out on the opportunity to make the community better.
What was being asked by the neighborhood was pushing for construction job goals. 51% minority, 51% residents, and 15% women. We also asked that at least 35% of the total contracts given to subcontractors went to women-owned or minority-owned businesses. When we first laid it out, the Salvation Army said, no, that's too much. And we continued to talk about how we can get it done and why we thought it was reasonable. And after a series of meetings and a series of back and forth, I think the Army took a leap.
This will be the beginning of something that this city and state has never had.
Anytime somebody's challenging you to do better, it's only going to make you better. Our goals here are 51% residents, 51% minorities, and 15% females. What we did with our subcontractors, we said, we're all going into this together knowing that these 51, 51, 15 percentages are requirements.
How do you increase the economic development of a neighborhood and make sure that poor people can take advantage of those improvements? Because so often what you see is improvement strategies, improving low-income neighborhoods, and also moving poor people out as part of the improvement.
When the neighborhood was really destroyed, the community came together and said, we want to be able to rebuild, revitalize this neighborhood in a way where those of us who are here now aren't going to be priced out. And so we set up a land trust to protect the affordability of the homes. And at the time that we did it, it was a pretty new idea.
The majority of the Dudley neighborhood is in Roxbury, with a part of it in North Dorchester. So the Dudley neighborhood is in the heart of Boston. The land trust primarily focuses on a 60-acre area in our neighborhood that we call the Dudley Triangle. In that triangular area, we own about 32 acres of land. We've sponsored about 225 units of affordable housing.
That 30 acres of land that had been vacant when DSNI started, it is now filled with permanently affordable homes, with parks and playgrounds and a community greenhouse. We built the last homes in the community plan during a national economic crisis, including an unprecedented collapse in the housing markets.
We went to an open house on a Saturday, and from that open house, we, like 3 weeks later, had gotten ourselves very involved with everything.
We're like the only ones attempting to buy a house.
In Boston.
The waiting is the stress.
I think the whole process is stressful. I'm a social worker. That's stressful into itself. I think house buying is the most stressful thing ever, next to giving birth.
It's a blue house halfway down Brookford Street. Tamar's room will be on the second floor, Ayani's room is on the second floor, and then Teresa's room is on the third floor with mommy and daddy on the other side of the hall.
It's beautiful, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. I look forward to having a stake in the property and a stake in the community.
A community land trust is an arrangement that recognizes that the community has an interest and a family has an interest. So it splits ownership.
The individuals who buy the housing, they own the house but not the land. And the purpose of doing that is to keep the housing affordable and in the community.
These homes right here are 18 new units. It's cost us about $300 grand to build it. We're selling it for $185. Having the community really control the land will ultimately mean that the house that's on top of it will always be affordable.
A startling amount of families are on the verge of losing their homes here in Massachusetts. Last month, more than 2,800 foreclosure petitions were filed. This is the first step in the long foreclosure process.
In the middle of a major foreclosure crisis, our land trust has been a real pocket of protection.
We made sure that any mortgage lender would be a responsible lender, not a predatory lender. As a result, land trust homeowners almost completely avoided the types of predatory loans with hidden interest rates, teaser rates, exploding payments due, that people literally next door found themselves having to pay and face, and they couldn't do it. Homes on land trust land are weathering the financial turmoil and the foreclosure crisis enormously well.
But not all the homes in the neighborhood are on the land trust. Right next to our land trust homes, you have streets now that are being abandoned with empty homes, and that attracts crime and creates a real stress for families in our neighborhood. The foreclosure crisis has really threatened all the work we've done.
We've convened a foreclosure roundtable as a part of a strategy here in Dudley to actually bring a lot of the agencies together to talk about all of our different methods to prevent foreclosures.
I live right down the street and walk to work, so I look at all the properties and I can see when a property is starting to go down. All the clues are there are no signs, no boarded windows, but you can begin to see it.
People with economically are riding the wave and they're just waiting for the next shoe to drop.
I think if we can map it and look at the clusters and then use some of the street knowledge, our partners have been able to acquire abandoned or already foreclosed homes, and they're putting them back in the market. But within the context of a national economic downturn, there continue to be huge challenges for us as we do our work.
You want me to initial this thing? I don't know why I just asked in front of me. I feel like from our perspective, this is an emotional purchase journey, uprooting our family. Like, this is dramatic.
This is a compliance agreement, and basically this one says that in the event that the bank needs any documents signed, you're going to cooperate with them in re-signing.
I see that house every day. Sometimes, every day. I told you, I said I stalked the house. Hopefully it hasn't seen me hiding in the bushes. But I've been there.
Buying into this land trust means you can't resell at market rate. That's not the intent of what these houses are for. It's for people who want to live in a community and want to be able to make it possible for someone else to be able to do what they did, start off with something affordable.
It does. Oh, wait, look. He's got something. Look at that. He's got keys. You want to be the first one to touch the keys?
No, you go ahead.
Are you sure?
I might pass out.
No, I think you should touch them.
Same time. I'm kind of thinking it's like a together thing.
All right, don't hog the key. All right.
Good morning, ladies. How are you?
Fine, thank you. You?
I'm pretty good. I'm Carlos Enriquez. Hoping you'll consider me for a vote today.
Who?
Carlos Enriquez,
Okay.
your neighbor, lives right down the street. Good to see you today. I saw the disparity between our neighborhood here and other neighborhoods in the city, how much we're disconnected from the services we should be getting. So I said, you know, the only way I'm going to change this is from what I know is to be active in it. I grew up in a household where my mother and father were very civically active. So it was always there. So it's just constantly been building on that. What has your father been doing for your whole life? And he's been serving other people. I said, well, I kind of idolize that guy. I want to be like him.
All right, all set?
All set, good to go.
Okay.
Who'd you vote for, me or Chuck?
I voted for Chuck. Let's see, I voted for Chuck.
Twice?
Twice. I put two blocks in for Chuck, right. Go Chuck, go Chuck.
How you doing today, sir? Carlos Enriquez, that's me. All right. Will you give me a vote?
He lost by a significant amount the last time. We're hopeful that he'll win, but, you know, we're prepared for whatever.
I'll give myself one day off, and then we should be back to work. I'm the teen program coordinator in the South End, where I work with teens every day. So I'll be back to that, making sure that they do their homework after school, making sure that we're looking for year-round and summer jobs. So the work continues. I want to thank you all again. Thank you for being here. Let's make sure we enjoy this night. It's not a sad night, so let's make sure we celebrate. Appreciate it. Watch out now.
Love you, brother.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you, Dad.
We'll do it next time.
Love you so much. Absolutely.
We'll do it right next time.
We'll keep grinding.
We're going to keep it doing.
Absolutely.
We're going to make it. We're going to make it.
Absolutely.
Go.
Hi, everybody. And that concludes of the film. I will stop sharing screen so that we can all see each other. You're welcome to come on camera if you feel called to. If not, no pressure. We will go ahead and begin our Q&A. Mona. Hi, everybody. Okay. So for those who weren't here earlier, I'm Gio. I use the he, him pronouns. I'm on staff with Ujima. Online, we have Mona, as well as Arifa. And I kindly asked Mona, would you open up the Q&A for our online audience first? And I'm going to figure out how many hands we can take out here, okay?
Okay, cool. That was cool. There's only me and Arifa and Meeks here. Meeks, do you feel like you have any questions or anything you want to throw into the mix here? Any thoughts from the movie? Meeks says, all good, just listening and learning. Oh, there's a few more people. Oh, wow. Oh, I'm so sorry. Whoa. Okay, fab. Dr. Sandy Range, do you have any thoughts? Questions, concerns? No, okay. I do not at this time. Okay. And M. Page Lieberman. Down to you. Do you have any thoughts that you'd like to share? And
Well, I noticed that they have the that old black Bart Simpson T-shirt from back in like 1991. If anybody caught that? I remember those.
I appreciate that, Matthew. So we actually have some great guidance for our Q&A here in person, and we'll be following that. So however you guys want to do it, okay? You folks want to do it.
Sure.
And maybe the mic won't reach too far yet.
Okay, so I'll just sit over here, or stand here. Well, I guess I wanted to start by just sharing a bit about why we're doing this. The Dudley Neighborhood Incorporated Land Trust decided to start a movie screen because, you know, we had a city council hearing not that long ago, like 3 months ago, where people were questioning sort of the value of sort of, you know, like not helping people build equity in the traditional way by having them sort of buy in the land trust. And you know, I think that there's different opinions about that, but certainly from folks who are part of the land trust, I think they were able to speak to the fact that being able to own and afford their homes allows them to actually sort of have access to many other things, right? It's almost like real-time equity because they're not paying all their money into housing. They're able to think about education. They're able to invest in other parts of their lives, right? And so, you know, that just struck us in a way where we felt that, I think it's important for more people to know about the land trust, right? It's been a long time since that sort of took place, it, you know, started, and it just, it seemed like, again, there's still been a lot of changes in the neighborhood that sort of warrant coming back out and talking about what it means, right? I think in the movie, there's clearly a message about, you know, we have to continue to be engaged and fight for what we want. So we wanted to actually ask, because we've only seen half of it, what struck you? You know, what struck you from what you heard, folks that you may have recognized? You know, we wanted to open it up first, just getting your own impressions about what you saw. So anybody want to start? Anybody want to comment?
And also to follow up with Marco, one of the movie nights that DSNI hosted was how I actually found out about the Dudley Street, found out about the land trust, and also found out about how, like, the changes that's been going on in the community. So I feel like just having more people to see this movie is important, and I'm grateful to be a part of the experience.
And just real quick to reiterate online, Lou had shared that she learned about Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative through one of the previous movie screening nights. That was for someone who asked us. Yeah.
Yes.
When was this film made?
So I don't know the exact date. Obviously, there's footage from the 2008-2009 crisis, but it happened later on.
I think it was 2012.
2012? Yeah.
Yes, it says 2013 online.
Okay. Yeah. So I wasn't involved in DSNI specifically. I worked for another nonprofit in Dorchester and Codman Square. We were also fighting foreclosure there. You know. Yes.
So I was in Ujima Square this past weekend on a little educational tour, and there was talk of a lot of development happening. And I always get nervous when that happens because I feel like people are going to get pushed out. But having this as a permanent kind of land trust is helpful. But is there any thought about that interaction with, you know, maybe new people moving in, some gentrification?
Yeah, I mean, well, part of the reason for also showing these movies is that we want to invite neighbors. You know, I think that there's a lot of benefit that people speak to about being a homeowner in the land trust. And I mean, I think our neighborhood continues to be challenged in many ways, that it warrants us going beyond the land trust to connect people to resources, what have you. I mean, I think that when DNI was set up, it was a very different, unique, new idea. I mean, now we have about 5, 6, even more land trusts that have formed in Boston, right? Just because it's a real important and viable solution to address the affordability, right? We even have a land trust for urban ag land, right? To secure access to urban agriculture and, you know, be able to grow our own food. And, you know, I think that people like in other states that are very similar to Boston that are just really being challenged by the housing crisis, California specifically, you know, people are, you know, because of these right of first refusal laws, they've been able to secure or purchase their apartment buildings and turn them into land trust, right? So it's not, it doesn't have to be multiple sort of parcels or properties. You know, people realize that this is the only way that they're going to continue to live in their homes.
And I just want to add that Marco is on the Sustainable Development Committee, which approves any kind of development partnership work that DSNI and DNI does. So everything goes through a community member approval process, which is really cool.
And the standards were sort of set up way back before I even got involved, but that's something that we constantly ask developers, right, about the affordability, because the reality is even though on paper they're affordable, they're not really accessible, right, to people given the incomes. Any other thoughts?
Can you talk a little bit more about how the land trust is created? Is the land bought from the city, or how the finances work?
Yeah, so, you know, 40 years ago when neighbors started to organize and sort of take back the neighborhood, right? I think they spoke to it briefly about just the amount of parcels that were, you know, abandoned, right? Foreclosed by the city, all the arson that took place. And so the organizing led DSNI and the city to come to an agreement about having eminent domain in this particular triangle, right? And so I think about half of those parcels that were vacant were sort of put into the land trust, right? So initially it was DSNI strictly organizing the neighborhood. Because now because we were going to have a bigger role in development, DSNI couldn't hold that property, so the land trust, the Dudley Neighbors Inc., was created for that purpose. You know, DSNI would continue to do organizing, would continue to do planning, but the implementation of that planning would be handled by the land trust, just to keep an arm's length sort of. So that's how it came about. It came about a few years after DSNI began organizing.
I would like to say something like this is really special and unique to our neighborhood in Boston and a lot of like the inner city people. A lot of the work just comes from really understanding your neighbors, doing your histories, research, maybe even at the libraries where you can learn a lot about the people who were here before us and like the things that were like our neighbors used to do and how they organized before. When I moved here back in 20 years ago, back in 2000, and you know, I just went outside, I began to walk around and just to learn about the neighborhood myself and to see the value in it. And I wanted to uphold that value and see more things happen, like that were gonna maybe bring me value as I grew up. I've always wanted a job in my neighborhood, so as we're in our neighborhoods, let's start to think about how we can make them better for the next generation, but also do research on things that may innovate our neighborhoods to be a little different, but still the same. We still want to be able to spend our money on the things we love, I think. And that's like the heart that this holds. It just says like these are real community people doing the work that they want to see happen, and they're kind of shaping their communities with each other. And that's how we should kind of be working with all of our ideas together so that we can like bring some economic value to our neighborhoods.
And could I ask could you share who you are? Because I feel like you're a significant person right now.
Well, as the movie said, we all are very valuable to this issue, this situation, to solving it. My name is Jay Pix, and I live in Dorchester, so I'm a photographer, community organizer. I just like working with people for the betterment of our survival, and I think that works for us when we start to think like that and work together.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Nice to meet everyone. yeah, let's work together on holding ground, because it still exists, and there are new things happening, right? So there are
Yeah.
new things we can talk about and start to create stories around too.
That's a really important point, JPIX, and JPIX is also on the DSNI board. You know, and I think brings their skills and eye for many things to our group. But yeah, that resonates with me because you know I've worked in the nonprofit organizing and the community development sector all my life out in Dorchester. You know, and so I feel like slowly I'm getting more and more involved, like close to my house, right? And it feels really good. You know, I think you know the point that I mean we're constantly under attack, you know, as a community. You know, we handle one thing and that oppressor has already evolved into something else. And so this is also why we decided to do this, because there's a lot of new people in the neighborhood, right? They need to find out what the history is. There's a lot of young people in the neighborhood that, again, like we saw, they need to have a voice, right? And you know, so I think that DSNI is also looking to figure out how do we bring back youth programs, you know, to our organization, because they make a big difference.
Really great.
Yeah, just a comment on that. I've seen Holding Ground before, so this is my first time seeing Gaining Ground, and because it's like a lot more recent, I was looking at it like, why does this look way too familiar? And so I texted my dad, and my dad was a project manager for a lot of the developments, and so hearing the story around like construction workers and prioritizing minorities, like not knowing until this moment that initiative, my dad probably wouldn't have been hired on that project if it wasn't for the work of the organizers. Like, I know that allowed me and my family to be able to purchase a home. So just thinking about, like, even though I live in Cambridge, how the economic, like, choices that we make as it even relates to procurement really have an impact way down the line. So a lot of gratitude for, like, the DSNI organizers who make sure that 51 was like that.
And one thing, because I don't want to take up much time, but you know, the reality is it is so important to get involved and to always be open to bringing new folks into the fold, because folks oftentimes don't know, right, that we've had victories, that they've never experienced collective work and collective power. And I think that as organizations, we need to be able to create those opportunities. I mean, it feels great to be part of a committee that, you know, gets to ask developers, what are the rents, right? And be able to say, well, we can't support this when you go to the ZBA and what have you. And so, you know, I think that there's a lot that comes from just engaging others, because they see stuff, right? But they oftentimes think that they're the only ones that see it. And it's when we come together that we realize, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. So I don't want to say that because I have my colleague here.
I think also one of the reasons why
Oh, and you can grab a chair or stand, but the closer the better.
I think one of the reasons why it's important to show movies like this, show the history, is so we all know the Salvation Army. One of their aims to move into Roxbury was to have affordable space for people in the community to go to, and I was fortunate enough to actually work at the Salvation Army of Croc, and as of this year, they raised their prices up for like the gym sign up. So that affects, and just watching this, like their initial agreement moving into the neighborhood was to make it affordable so that people can go in. But like with this, it's like, well, you're kind of stepping back away from that. So it's a reminder of the why. It's like always reminding why we're doing what we're doing, and then also having something to have that accountability, you know. So I think it's important for people to see it, because then it's like an evidence base to be able to fight for what you need and like gather amongst community to make the change that is needed. So
Thank you. And that includes online. Do you have any questions or thoughts so far?
Well, here's a food for thought that maybe you can talk about.
Doesn't seem like it over here.
Okay. All right, you got that.
Another question to think about and maybe have a conversation around is, what did the community do to turn things around? Who took the lead? Who took the lead?
And for our online audience, what was the questions again?
What did the community do to turn things around? Who took the lead in helping in aiding that change that you guys observed in the place?
It was a team effort for me. There was a lot of like stronger voices, but you know, the voices were in the community with people, so it was like a community thing. But sometimes when you're near your neighbor, you share the same like mission, you kind of like get with them and you start doing things. And I felt like John Barrows, he was kind of a youth leader. He lived there, he was a resident. So our residents are leaders, you know, like we're the leaders. And sometimes you see somebody doing something and they're like, yeah, like let's do that. So that's my take on it. Like I feel like there is no leader, but you can lead. And when you lead, like other people will lead with you. So that helps. Like it helps. It builds like camaraderie. I would say when you're working together and making stuff happen. And so like I like teamwork, and so that shows leadership.
And I wanted to say, we don't have a member team meeting this evening, but perhaps we can, move towards wrapping this up around 7:20. And we can tell our virtual folks have a good night. But I mean, I'm here, I'm not leaving anytime soon. So just wanted to give a heads up to the virtual audience. We will conclude the virtual room at 7:20. Please. Oh, we have two people. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I did have a question. We're talking about the Kroc Center, and the funding went into 80 million plus 11 from the mission. So currently, how is it that the salaries and other finances being paid? Was it simply from the neighborhood paying the premiums for the membership?
From my understanding, the recreational was resource income in. So for fitness, they have personal trainers in there for too. So they host special events to help to supplement that income. That's from my understanding.
And the other salaries that are not related to the activities?
I wouldn't be able to speak to that necessarily, but I'm assuming as a nonprofit, they do a lot of fundraising themselves.
I was trying to understand how the rationale for needing to increase membership fees if the original agreement was keep it low. So it seems to me like there's either a struggle or there's a need to expand and need more money. So that's kind of where I'm heading is what they're trying to do. I know that currently they're having trouble trying to maintain different programs. So every time they send out an email, they're saying, well, we can't do that, we can't do this. So it's like an email saying we don't have the ability to maintain these programs.
Food for thought, thank you.
I think the other thought, I run a Main Street program in foreclosures, and our businesses are open again, but they haven't like recuperated from COVID. And now, the cost of your basic inputs is a lot higher. I mean, electricity's gone through the roof, right? So I'm sure everybody's challenged at this point, including a nonprofit like that.
Darius?
I was just gonna say this documentary and you all sharing your experiences has been a really good reminder that the work continues, right? We set out, we have goals that we maybe meet, right, in terms of building housing, right? Getting folks into that housing, making it affordable and accessible, creating opportunities for youth development, leadership, creating economic development opportunities, and how that has to be an ongoing thing, because I think a lot of understanding that, this last question about like maintaining things, right? How to understand that, and then thinking about the evolution of these things, right? Because this documentary was made in 2012. I mean, we're in some ways a similar time, in some ways a very different time in 2025. And how does the work evolve to meet the needs of the current time while also planning for what may be the needs in the future?
A very clear example of that is, so the state has this funding that was going to be part of the sort of financing package for a project that was being developed or proposed for Dudley Street. But again,
It's right there.
yeah, RTR Neighborhood, that site. And the program, the state program required that, you know, the sort of lease, what do you call it, constraints, only be limited to 30 years, right? At 30 years, people could sell their home and make a profit, right?
I think it was reduced to 15, right?
Huh?
They had agreement for 15.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think it started at 30 with, and then maybe, you know, that went against the whole idea of the land trust, right? Getting back to the idea that ensuring that a home is affordable for people allows them to think about many other possibilities besides just paying the mortgage, right? And so even though these homes were going to be quote unquote affordable, first-time home buyers, if the developer went with that program, there was no guarantee that they were going to sell it at an affordable rate. They were not going to be limited to that. So yeah, it's still, the challenge is there, you know, and some of it goes back to our own elected officials that don't seem to get it, that, you know, that the programs don't work for our communities, right? Yeah,
And M. Page Lieberman said in the chat, maybe this was part of your conversation too, in my city, we're trying to set up a community land trust, and much of the funding we're planning to come from our linkage fees, which is what developers pay. So thank you for that comment, and good luck with the land trust work.
I think your question of how do we maintain the systems that we're setting is a good question to lean off with, or at least like to think about and hopefully see how we can contribute to that process. I think that's a good question.
That's a great segue because the second half of the movie will talk a little bit about that.
Excellent.
I'll come next week.
Excellent. And so that actually brings this portion, that actually brings our workshop to a close. I would like the recording to stop, which is actually my role.